Welcome back to JCC Voices. I'm Fara Marcus. I'm the Chief Development and Communications Officer here at the JCC. And today, I'm really excited to talk about our Israel engagement. What have we been up to? What have we been doing these past couple months and past year? And I have a very special guest with me. I have Yisrael Klitsner, straight from Israel, who arrived last night, our Israel Engagement Series moderator. And he's going to have a conversation with us about the importance of what we're doing. Before we start our conversation with Yisrael Klitsner, let me give you a little bit of background on who he is. Not only is Yisrael a friend to our JCC and many of us here at the JCC in our Pittsburgh community, but...
And former member.
He is a past employee of AIPAC. He's worked with the Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, and he currently is at the Jewish People Policy Institute in Jerusalem. And what else do you have to say for us, Yisrael? What else are you engaged with?
Many things, but it's really great to be here. And Pittsburgh is my second home ever since I've lived here. And you guys are always going to be my first call once I make it onto this side of the ocean. So it's really, really good to be here with you.
And it's really good to be here face to face because, Yisrael, we've been Zooming and on WhatsApp conversations for I don't know how many months now, and finally face-to-face. Let's talk a little bit about how Come Curious Leave Wiser came about.
Fara, so your colleague, Jason, President and CEO of the JCC here.
Jason Kunzman.
And I were having dinner in Jerusalem. We've become friendly from my time here in Pittsburgh. We used to go on Shabbat walks every Shabbat after
I've heard about
Shabbat
them.
morning, early Shabbat morning.
A little jealous of them, but not the time.
And we would talk shop and just have a lot of fun on those walks. But then when he came to Israel, he shared quite a bit of what was bugging him about the conversations surrounding Israel, and we were spitballing. Of course, it always helps when you spitball over a great meal with some good wine. And the conversation led us both to the place where we understood that there's a true need to break through ecosystems, to bring people into civic discourse in a way that is just simply not being done. And certainly it's not being done around domestic politics within the Jewish American community, but all the more so surrounding Israel, and even more so after October 7th, which is unbelievably unfortunate, but also, I would say, frightening in terms of where this relationship is leading us towards. So we were sitting there and thinking about this question, and how do we get past this hurdle? And one of the ideas that I mentioned to Jason at the time is, listen, Jason, you're here on this trip. He was there on a trip that was organized
through the JCC,
and you're getting to experience something that not everybody gets to experience. How about we try to emulate your experience here in Israel as closely as possible, but bring it to people, make it accessible in a way that is not only going to engage them on the deep content that you're experiencing here in Israel, but also is going to bridge those wide and deep gaps between ideological divides and allow them those participants that hopefully are going to engage in a like I mentioned before, in a civil manner, in a way that does not tear people apart, but rather brings them together. In biblical terms, you call this machloket l'shem shamayim, the disagreement for the sake of heavens. And that is exactly what we had in mind when we envisioned this program. And so far, we've had session number 1, and I believe it went exactly as planned.
I would think that it went exactly as planned, except for one minor detail, is that you were unable to make it. Yeah. We're really thankful that
it's just a small thing.
Just a small
Iran
thing.
War, missiles.
Yeah,
it is
planes.
What it is. Yeah.
Yisrael you called us from a bomb shelter in the airport. And it's like, guys, I don't think I'm going to make it, but I have a colleague who I think can help moderate this conversation, which Adam did amazing, but you were definitely missed. And
well, I missed you.
Tonight is the second session, and we're so excited for this one. But let's go back a little bit about your conversation with Jason in Israel. And that was the impetus for this series, and also really our Israel engagement as a JCC as a whole. We decided to double down on our Jewish life. And what does that mean? It means engaging our Jewish and non-Jewish community members and bringing in educational ways for people to come curious. Literally, our series name, Come Curious, Leave Wiser. And what does that double down mean? It means bringing engagement, bringing Israel engagement. So this series is one part of that. We'll talk a little bit soon about what the other parts of else does that mean. Like we brought in Haviv Gur, which sold out seats. Our session 1 of this series sold out the cats. We brought in Rabbi Angela Bookdahl, sold out show. We have this evening, more than half of our seats are sold. A large part of this also with my involvement is I am a graduate of the Martin Pear Fellowship Program, which is a program of the Jewish, the JCCA. And I have a mission and also a project, which is I am obligated, and obligated turned into a passion, but to bring Israel into our community. And what a better way than bringing Israel into this community is partnering with you and being creative in our innovative and out-of-the-box ways.
100%. And I'll just say that it's been some sides of Israel engagement have been disheartening since October 7th. When I saw the levels of disengagement rather than engagement, where people, and this was a trend that preceded October 7th of many in the North American Jewish community saying this is just, it's too hot, it's too complicated, the hot potato needs to be kicked down the road, and I can't possibly touch it because it's going to get me in trouble. Or alternatively, it's going to be something that is going to pit me against a good friend of mine, and I don't want to do that.
100%.
Or et cetera, et cetera. And I kept thinking to myself, no, this is, first of all, there's no ducking from Israel. Like it or not, even if you're a Jew living in North America, and especially if you're a Jew living in Israel, and I would claim if you're a Jew living anywhere in the world, what we've seen and in spades, especially after October 7th, is that Israel is going to make its way into your life one way or another. And then the question is, okay, if you understand that that is the case, then wouldn't it be wise to engage in a thoughtful and respectful way, but also in a meticulously planned out way and strategic way that allows you to dictate the terms of engagement and allows you to plan it out so that it actually causes much more good than harm. And I do think that we hopefully have created something here that symbolizes exactly that.
Yeah, people are coming back. They are curious.
And thirsty, as you mentioned, right? There's clearly a need for this type of engagement, and I think even taking last session when we brought Jeremy Ben-Ami on the one side and Brett Stevens on the other, that's
definitely a divisive risk.
Somebody from the outside could look at that and say, "Oh boy, they're stepping in it, and this is going to implode in their faces." But I think I mentioned this to you, Farah, when we were having a one-on-one earlier, that I knew that they had much more. Brett Stevens and Jeremy Ben-Ami have much more than they agree on than they disagree on. As two ardent Zionists who believe in the Jewish state and the existence of it and the thriving of it, there is a joint base there that can serve as a connective tissue, and it should, and it does. All you have to do is tap into it. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And we saw in their conversation, there yes, of course there were differences,
Yeah.
and they need to be parsed out, and they need to be understood, and they need to be thoroughly examined so that the people in the audience can examine that within themselves as well, and also look at their neighbors and say, okay, I now have a little bit of a better understanding, and I can step into the shoes of why that person thinks the way they think, even though I don't agree with it.
I definitely myself experienced that.
And that is invaluable to communal relations, but also to diaspora-Israel relations, which is something that is unfortunately becoming more elusive.
And for the future generations, that's something that Haviv Gur kept on talking about when he came, and how we need to engage the generations below us for the generations ahead of us. This work is deeply important. I'm really happy that you're on this journey with us. You're leading it, you're curating it, you're moderating it. What is something that, so your family is in Israel and you're here, and it's not so easy traveling back and forth, and it takes some time. Why is this work so important to you? Because I know your wife and children right now are like, where's daddy? Where's my husband? But
in fact, my son was just texting me and asking where I am. So my parents moved from the U.S. to Israel in 1979. And they said to themselves and to each other, rather than witnessing history unfold from afar, we want to take part in it. And they've since asked myself and my 4 siblings time and again throughout our teenage years, do you resent the choice that we made for you? That we forced upon you the need to now enroll into military service that is mandatory. We've taken upon ourselves, but by proxy, we've taken upon you. And how do you feel about that? And my siblings and I would time and again look at them as if they just fell out of the sky and say, like, no, it's obvious that this is our destiny, this is our fate, and we wouldn't have it any other way. There's just no other reality that we can envision. And I'll speak for myself in saying that growing up in both worlds and representing both worlds, being certainly 2 feet in Israel, growing up there, but then marrying someone from New York and moving to New York for 3.5 years immediately after my IDF service in IDF combat unit, special forces called Duvdevan, and then coming back to Israel.
Which is no small feat.
It was very difficult. It was these transitions were always difficult for me, but on the other hand, they really kept me immersed in both worlds and left me sort of on the cusp, neither here nor there, but both here and there at the same time, and caring so much about this relationship. That's why I loved working for AIPAC and trying to help steward that relationship. That's why I went on to become the Diaspora Affairs advisor to Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, and trying to, again, steward this in the right path, in the right direction, to be the best type of relationship between Israel and the diaspora that it possibly can. Understanding full well just how many challenges we have in a tidal wave that is coming our way, and certainly looking down the future and the demographic trends, and looking at some of the political trends both in Israel and in the diaspora. So it's all the signals and warning signs are in place, and that's why I've long felt that there is a lot of groundwork that needs to be done at the base level, and without that, we're going to be missing the mark by a lot when the time comes. And as you just quoted correctly in Haviv mentioning that we need to do this work now so that our generations to come are going to be able to reap the benefits. That's exactly the point. And I wish upon my kids that are now missing me while I'm here, that they can enjoy the fruit of this labor. But it's not just me. It takes an entire village, right? We all need to be immersed in this, and having partners like yourself, like the JCC, like Jason, it makes this so much more enjoyable and really something that I look forward to.
All right, Yisrael. So let's talk about, after this evening's session on Israeli politics, we have 4 sessions left. 1 left in this spring edition, and then 3 more in our fall edition, which will hopefully have dates coming out soon for those 3 sessions. Tell us what else is there in our in your treasure box for us for the next 4 series.
Sure. I'm not going to get into the last 2 in depth, but I'll speak about the next 2. So the next one is in June 16th, and that session is going to be surrounding the topic of geopolitics and Israel's geostrategic concerns. That is going to be led by 2 speakers who are going to be coming in from Israel. One is Dr. Shira Efron, who is both affiliated with Israel Policy Forum as well as the INSS, and has been working a lot on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict issue as well as advocacy on a 2-state solution. And then on the other side of it, we're going to have Brigadier General in Reserves Nitzan Uriel, who is somebody who's been responsible for the joint IDF and U.S. military cooperation, military training cooperation. So when you think about Israel's 3-tier missile defense system, as well as some of the other capacities that entail U.S. support or U.S. integration. So I don't know if how closely you've followed the Iranian attacks and how they've been thwarted, but there's been an integration of the THAAD system, which is an American system. So in order for all these systems to symbiotically work together, there's a real need for a lot of preparation and groundwork that happens at the sea level. So with the navies, that happens in the air level, which includes missile defense that I just mentioned, as well as ground troops. Yeah. So he's been leading the charge on that for quite some time, but he also spent some time in the Prime Minister's office advising on issues relating to counterterrorism.
Really
so
excited
should be a very interesting topic and conversation, and I think really, really important in terms of framing. Right, when Jason and I thought about this 6-part series and said how are we going to bring this to life, there were many topics that could have gone into this series, but it was very clear that geopolitics has to be either first or second, or at the very least third. And the reason is that gives you this sort of macro perspective in zooming out and saying, okay, if I really want to understand Israeli politics, which we're going to dive into later today with our speakers, Nadav Eyal, Tal Shalev, and Nasreen, if we're really going to wrap our heads around what makes Israelis tick and why they vote the way they vote and why it is that Bibi is staying on his seat for this long, you really need to understand the security parameters. You need to understand these basic necessities that Israelis hold near and dear to their hearts, which is security. How do you actually function as a tiny little state in a sea of nations that don't always want you situated where you are? And that is something that we're going to tackle in this session, and I really look forward to it because, again, I think this is a cornerstone of the entire series. And then I'll talk just briefly about the 4th session, which is going to be surrounding the topic of the aftermath of October 7th, some of the emotional, lasting emotional responses that still linger, some of the rebuilding efforts. And I'm not only talking about obviously physical rebuilding. I'm talking about primarily nation rebuilding. After going through such a national trauma on that magnitude of a level, how does a nation put back the pieces and begin to steer itself in the right direction? And maybe not, right? In some cases, I would claim already now, spoiler alert, that's not necessarily being done. And there's a lot that really needs to be worked on.
Those are definitely hard topics, especially the fourth one that we're going to see in the fall. Hard topics, so important and necessary to understand what's happening in Israel and also how the diaspora is responding in our own way. And which is really a whole other series or session as well.
It is what its role is in all of this, what Israel's role is in the diaspora aftershock of October 7th, right? We're seeing that this is hitting diaspora communities all over the place in many different ways. But the spike in anti-Semitism is not a coincidence by any stretch of the imagination. And what is Israel's responsibility? What is Israel's role? These are all questions that are really, really important. And by the way, I think even if they're not going to be implemented, right, if we have this conversation around what Israel's role is in rebuilding Jewish communities in the diaspora after October 7th and ensuring their safety and their just having the Israeli voice as part of that conversation, I think is really important and right now, honestly, quite missing.
Yeah, I agree. I want to ask you one question before we close. Why the JCC? Sometimes you get questions, why are you doing this at the JCC? I know my answer, but I'm curious. Why do you think it's so important that the JCC is delivering this type of programming?
So when I moved to Pittsburgh and I joined the JCC and I brought my kids here and I would come here on Sundays, I'd see this gorgeous, how do you say, psifas, assortment, but there's a better word for it.
Riley over there, our producer, you know another word, Hebrew word for it?
I'm still a beginner.
Okay.
This beautiful array of individuals that are coming from all walks of life and all corners, and they are
very similar to Israel.
Very similar to Israel, but even though you're in a Jewish community center, they are Jewish, they are not Jewish, they are of all colors, types, shapes, and forms, and I fell in love instantly. And I actually think that there's an added value here, right? So one value for the JCC is that it is this natural convener in the truest sense of convener. That it does so in ways that is so not touched or colored by any negativity, but rather only through sheer positive engagement and willingness to bring out the best of the local community, and I think it does so in spades. But then the added bonus, I think, of having the JCC as the convener is one of the takeaways that I've had as again, an Israeli who's lived in both spaces and constantly going back and forth between the U.S. and Israel, is that the JCC model is a missing piece in the Israeli story, in my mind. If you look at who was quickest to get back up on their feet after October 7th in the communities that were most devastated, you'll see that the communities that had a tight-knit group, and especially the kibbutzim, they had a higher capacity to reach levels of endurance and of resilience that other communities like Sderot, the cities especially, simply did not have. I live in Jerusalem, a large city. The JCC model is nowhere to be found. And I think there's an omen here for Israelis as well to take away, right? This is a two-way street. And yes, while we are engaging the North American Jewish community, and it's specifically the Pittsburgh Jewish community, local Pittsburgh Jewish community, on issues relating to Israel, I think there's also quite a resounding message to be sent to Israel on how to build this type of resilient communal structure that the JCC has so masterfully done, and specifically yours here in Pittsburgh. So I think there's a twofold message here.
What a beautiful answer. And I have to say, Yisrael, every time I have a conversation with you, I come in curious and I leave wiser. Not just saying that it's the name of your series, but it's true. Come June 16th. Tickets are on sale. I hope to see you in the spring. We'll be releasing the dates soon. Come to all of our engagement and leave a little bit more wiser. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yisrael.
Thanks, Fara.